Brother Marcus, coming to you. I've never walked us through these healthy relationships training. I know that I've placed many on Facebook with different music and themes to keep us interactive, but I want to walk us through these trainings that we do with the youth because these trainings are very applicable for those who are entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. Even those that are in the early stages of their growth and development concerning their careers and professions. So I'm gonna walk you through step by step. This training will take maybe, hopefully 10 to 15 minutes at the most. I want to try to condense this information just to get it to you, focusing on the meat of the issue and not so much the details. So let's move forward. Anytime we start our training, we always make sure that our students have the fundamental things. Of course, a pass, a piece of paper, a pencil, and a presence. People can be present and not available in the training. We want to make sure that our students are present and available. And this is what transformational training does. It's an interactive, it's more question answer, it's more demonstration of the principles that are being shared. So our thing is that we focus on the 5 P's, which is proper preparation promotes positive performance. This is basic training for many of our students. So now we're going to go into the fundamentals. And one of the fundamental principles of this training that we will share is that society focuses on who you're not versus who you are. If you watch any programming, whether it be a movie, random commercials, episodes, sitcoms, society at large focuses on who we aren't versus who we are. So we have a lot of people in the wrong career professions for the wrong reasons. The key, if you take nothing from this training and this discussion that we have, is that you must focus on who you are and who you versus who you are not. You must focus on who we are and not who we are not. When we focus and centralize our thoughts on who we are, our options will decrease, but the quality of what we do will increase. So you have many people in job professions now that are forced to do things outside of their true identity, which causes many of us to be frustrated, and it takes away the concentration and the quality of work that we produce. So I want you to really, really grab a hold of that principle that we must focus on who we are. We're not focusing on negative. We're not focusing on weaknesses. Weaknesses are identified, but we're focusing on our strength to augment or multiply our strength to get the proper product or the quality product that we desire. Another foundational principle as we move forward is when we do these trainings, we're divorcing the past to advance in the future. We don't stay in the past. We identify past behaviors. We never put ownership on them. We just identify them, and then we rectify those issues and we bring solutions to those issues. Our objective and focus for today's training is to define what career is. We want to answer how we identify the career that fits us, and we want to also identify what stops our careers from moving forward. So anytime we do a training, we always give the focus on the objective first, and it subconsciously centralizes people's brains and attention on these 3 things. Notice that we did it in threes, 1, 2, 3, because this is how many people consume and understand information in 3s and in 4s and in different patterns and associations. What is a career? A career is an expression of who we are and who we are becoming. At first glance, we can identify the word car in career. As we broke up car, ears meaning sound, meaning we can hear our vehicles that move forward. When we start a training, we always bring some type of interactive exercise. This week's was What's What. We had each participant get a note card, and the note card already had a profession on it, and we had each individual act out the profession with no sound, and then students were able to guess at what profession it was. It's very interactive, a very effective icebreaker. The principle that was taken out from that was an actor is a pretender. When people are in different careers or job settings that's outside of who they are, they're actually pretending. They're actually actors. When we define careers as an expression of who we are and who we are becoming, we come into an understanding that a career is a process of progressive growth and development. So if you take nothing from that long statement, focus on the statement that a career is a process of progressive growth and development. Referencing being an actor, we also understand that actors are pretenders and that once we discover who we are and we're fully functioning in that, there's no takes between filming. We cannot take a vacation from who we are. So who I am is just who I am. Whatever career profession that I'm in, for me, it's a trainer. Training is who I am. It's who I am first, and then it's what I do. I'm not pretending or acting, so there's no breaks in the film. There's no vacationing from who I am. We don't take breaks between filming because we're not acting. We're becoming. Another statement I want to share with you is that we must view our jobs as assignments that will eventually reach completion, not duties. I am, therefore I do. So once we renew our mind and we have this mindset that our jobs, we can view them as assignments, because any assignment that your teacher ever gave you reach completion. The teacher gives you an assignment, you complete that assignment, and you progress forward. Once we have a duty mentality, which is a labor mentality, we find ourselves stuck in a posture of fixed thinking. We don't think outside the box per se. Even if we think outside the box, we're still thinking within a box. It's just not a box that we created. There's still boundaries and limitations, but they're not self-imposed. So what I'm saying is that we must view our jobs as assignments that reach completion. Once we get that mindset and we focus on who we are, not who we're not, then we'll progress forward rapidly. Wisdom key. If we are now in this training, we correlated career to a car because the root word in career is car. So every principle that we used in this training was related to a car, and people are able to associate better with that when we bring it in that manner. The wisdom key was if a vehicle is not tuned up, then that vehicle will misfire, missing the goal. We know that a vehicle will misfire because we can hear it putting down the street. If it's not tuned up, then the vehicle will run rugged. We can always hear when a vehicle is not firing on all cylinders. This is the reason why every vehicle or career needs a tune-up. Now, this is the key. I mean, this is not in this particular presentation, but this is something that is in the notes from it. We must remember that a tune-up is internal. Therefore, the hood has to be lifted up. The question is, do we trust our mechanics? Our mechanics can be our counselors, our mentors, our leaders, our advisors and instructors to help us resolve internal issues. If an individual has an internal issue and it's major and it hasn't been identified, there's a great possibility or likelihood that they're not walking in their true identity. And then they have the inability to sense or perceive who they really are because there are internal issues which we interpret our life through. So we got to understand that. Moving forward, this was the skit that we have students do skits in between to keep people interactive with it. So, for example, this skit was you need to tune up. Usually we'll have two students go up and practice the skit before we actually do the skit. So in this case, they didn't do it this week, but we always want to involve them and keep them engaged in the training. Now, what stops us from moving forward in our careers? We attempt to drive two vehicles because we have identity crisis. It's duality, is double-mindedness, is I'm here, then I'm there. I'm here, then I'm there. And we don't have to do that once we come into contact with our counselors, instructors, mentors that can lift us up, go under the hood internally, and help us discover who we are. Then we'll be on a path that's narrow and one that's not broad. Our thinking is stuck and idle at times. These are issues or problems that we're identifying. We don't have a realization of our true identity, and dead ends and roadblocks. These are 4 issues that we can identify, and now we're going to bring the 4 solutions from these issues, because anytime you're in a training and you're identifying an issue, you must bring a solution. Like we said before previously, that society focuses on problems, who we aren't versus who we are. If you read different teachings from, I would say, secular, I wouldn't say anybody that's renewed in the spirit of their mind, you can still see a measure of it there. But if you read anything secular or watch it, you will see who you aren't versus who you are. We can't associate ourselves with false identities. The solutions is this: we must drive one vehicle, meaning I have one identity, meaning I do one thing great that God has endowed me to do, and I'm continually perfecting that craft. We must remain mobile in our thinking. Mobile meaning I'm open to receive things from people that don't look like me. I'm multiculturally aware of those that God has sent to me to speak into my life. The third thing is that we have to come into a realization of who we are. And this will evade all dead ends and roadblocks. Those things will be, non-existent. Next skit that we have is "This is my mama's car." So the premise of this particular skit was, some of us in our life, we drive in our mom's car or our dad's car in reference to career, meaning that somebody asked you or suggested to you to follow in the footsteps of your mother or your father. And when we entertain that thought, even though it may be a good thought, it may not be a God thought, it may not be the path that God has orchestrated for us to walk down. But because of tradition and feeling as though I may dishonor my parents because I'm not walking in their footsteps, I'll jump in their car, which is a vehicle, which is a career, and do what they did just to pacify myself, or just to make people proud of me, or just to satisfy people's beliefs, which may not be what God wants for my life. So that was the premise of this particular skit. So going back to my students, when students act out skits, we always give them the explanation of what we want from the skit, the principle. However, how they bring it with their creativity is how they bring it. As long as we focus on the foundational principle, it's excellent, because we leave enough room for them to express themselves so they can experience the demonstration of growth and development as well. Additional keys. Additional keys. We need a license or identification and insurance or assurance to drive the correct career or vehicle. We must conduct regular internal and external inspections before we attempt to drive any vehicle, aka jumping into a career, meaning research. If we don't have a realization of true identity, then we'll be driving the wrong vehicle illegally with no coverage. Now, on the flip side of that, being positive, if we have the realization of our true identity, then we will be driving legally with full coverage, with full insurance. So what we're saying is that when we come into a measure of who God called us to be, we'll be in the right career at the right time in the right place with full coverage. Many times when we get into situations that we can't handle, it's not for us to handle it. We need to think possibly we stepped out of the grace that God has placed or endowed us with. We stepped out those borders and guidelines because we jumped outside the box, and the box, it wasn't meant for us to jump outside of that box yet. So we go prematurely because our ego and different ambitions and self-imposed aspirations that TV has imposed on us, going back to who we are not. So the assignment that we gave students is that we want them to purchase a car for $50,000. That's the budget. And the 2 questions that we want them to answer is, what were the steps you took when purchasing the car, and why did you purchase that type of vehicle? And the premise of that is to see what steps they took to purchase the car with a budget of $50,000, and what type of vehicle that they purchased, because it's going to be reflective of how they think. And being reflective of how you think is reflective of who you are, or who you consume, or who you are around. So I think we're coming to the end. Now this was kind of extended because I did more talking as far as the side notes that I had. But usually when we do trainings, it only takes us 30 minutes to do it. If you watch any sitcom or episode, it really takes 30 minutes for the show to be complete. And even then, you see commercials in between. We don't like to extend our trainings past that because we understand that the human attention span it doesn't move past a certain extent of time, and we like to cut that learning curve in half. So with the interactions and with the discussions, the small groups, maybe 12 to 15, no more. Well, if it's less, less is better because there's a limited amount of opinions. We want to allow them to have room to express themselves, but we don't want to get distracted off the main goal. So every time we wrap up a training, we come with a summary. We have maybe 4 or 5 students stand up and share what they got, and then we go through the summary. So the summary is a career as an expression of who we are and who we are becoming. If a vehicle is not tuned up, then that vehicle will misfire, missing the goal. We should conduct regular internal and external expectations, or not expectations, my apologies, inspections before we attempt to drive any vehicle. At times, we attempt to drive 2 vehicles. The solution is to drive 1. Our thinking at times are stuck in idle or neutral. The solution is for us to be mobile and open to any correction or suggestion that our peers, mentors, colleagues, aka mechanics, may have. If they want to go under our hood and inspect, if they want to go inside our car, if they want to change the oil, then allow that person to service you. So we wanted to give you some insight on that. If you have any questions for myself, you can reach me at cagemarcus@yahoo.com, or you can also reach me on Facebook page, Marcus Cage, or even at the website, which is divineworks.wordpress.com. Blessings to you. Share this training with some of your peers. If you have any questions, once again, you can always reach me either on Facebook or email at cagemarcus@yahoo.com. I'm praying that this will bless you and will, release you of those self-imposed and different concepts that society and TV puts on us, so we can walk in the full measure of who God called us to be. God bless you.